Hello people of YouTube and HeroClub.com, I am TWK and welcome to my review of Goemon's Great Adventure for the Nintendo 64. Just for the sake of clarity, I am using an emulator for this as my Dazzle is on the fritz and this game still has yet to be released on any modern consoles, so my Elgato is a no-go. Just want to give you all a heads up about that since there will be technical difficulties not found on the original cartridge. With all of that out of the way, our game begins with hetero life mates Goemon and Abisumaru visiting the wise man to see his latest invention, which takes all of 2 minutes to go wrong. So, our villain of this story is Abisumaru's descendant, Sister Bismaru, who the game refers to using male pronouns. Not sure if problematic, poor translation, or both. You know what? You decide! Regardless, Bissy wants to use Wise Man's machine to revive the demon TWK to rule all of the worlds, and it's up to our heroes to stop him. Unlike the previous Goemon game, you'll notice that we have a world map not too dissimilar to the 2D Mario games. On top of that, the gameplay is now a 2D platformer with 3D assets. You attack with B, jump with A, and use R for special abilities. For this first level, you're limited to just jumping and attacking, which is fine enough. There are also these poles throughout the game that I've seen so many people get confused about. So you grab onto it and start swinging, and after that, you just aim the control stick or D-pad where you want to go and hit A. It's that simple. Our first town is Lost in Town. It's a typical Edo city, which really shows how much Japanese media I consume. God dang, I'm a fucking weeb. Nevertheless, we meet up with our Robo Ninja buddy Sasuke, and he informs us that our giant Robo buddy Impact has gone haywire and is attacking the castle, and he kidnapped Goemon's girlfriend Umitsu. So now we have our goal of the region. It should be noted that this building is the tea house, and is where you can switch characters. Yeah, no more insta-switching like Mystical Ninja, you have to go to these tea houses. Or, if you're out in one of these road-type areas, you can hop onto an orange platform and go into a tea house in another dimension! But before we leave, we'll need to swing by Goemon's house, where we meet Kenzo, a cross-dressing man who needs money from our hero to visit the beauty parlor. And of course, we oblige. In exchange, we get Goemon's special, the Chain Pipe! We can use this to break through star blocks and attack enemies from a small distance away. I should also note that this game does have a time cycle, and at night you get double the amount of money but at the cost of double the amount of enemies roaming around, so travel during dark at your own risk. It should also be said that at the end of every level you get an entry pass, which is our main collectible. I mean, come on, this game came out in 1998, at least in Japan. Damn near every game had to have one of these around this time. You can also receive one for completing side quests. Yes, this game has side quests, and they do vary in quality. Our first one is talking to an iguana man. That's literally it. Our second one involves talking to a DJ who sends us back to Lawson Road to collect an LP, a pair of headphones, and a microphone within a pretty generous time limit. After we collect enough passes, we enter through the checkpoints, and the guards are stunned by the amounts we have, and off we go to our first castle of the game, Edo Castle. Unlike the other castles we'll be visiting, this one actually starts with a cutscene including a talking animal that we'll never see again. Alrighty then, Konami, thanks for springing that one on us. It won't take long to notice what really makes this game feel different from a lot of run-of-the-mill 2D platformers of its era, the feeling of exploration. As you make your way through the castle, you won't just be heading up and to the right, you'll go left, right, up, down, all around, which has really become extremely common with the popularity of Metroidvanias, but at the time, this is pretty unique. And what helps is that this is all rendered with 3D objects. I can only imagine what stages like this would look like if you got a full look at them. But what I mean is, can one of the Boundary Break type YouTube channels take a look at this game, please? Anyways, we reach the top of the castle and bow a Robo Scarecrow by hitting the projectiles back at it. Super simple boss, but this was only Castle Numero Uno, and would you look at that, Umitsu is saved! Hooray! But oh no, a giant robot is approaching. Well, with the mind-controlled Scarecrow dead and gone, that means we can control Impact, as well as Wise Man's newest invention, Miss Impact. Mecha battles work pretty much the same way they did back in Mystical Ninja, except firing your laser only requires pressing C down twice before Z as opposed to hitting all the C buttons, and on top of that you can pause. Yes, this is a new feature for robo battles. The boss fight here is simple enough, just hit everything that flies at you, and if your health gets too low, you can always do a baton pass, and yes, this is a 2-player game, but that's always a double-edged sword in platformers in my opinion. After taking down Bismaru's bot, he says that he's off to Ryugu Island, and no one has any idea where that is until Princess Yuki informs us, so with that, we're off to our next region, which just so happens to be on the back of a giant tortoise. No, really, gotta love Japan. The levels here are much more challenging, what with the added bottomless pit and enemy quantities. They also add optional objectives for you to find, so yay exploration bonus! Our city for this area is Otohime Town, and upon doing research of that name, makes so much sense. I don't have time to explain here, but just know that it's a nice bit of wordplay. It's in this town where we meet Yae, and now our party is complete, and on top of that, both Yae and Sasuke can swim underwater. It's also in this town where Abysamaru can meet a fangirl who will gift him with this solid megaphone, and now everyone has a special. Hoorays and huzzahs all around. However, we're not done here yet, as we have to race Abysamaru's rival, Obysamaru. The only way to win is to spam the absolute fuck out of the megaphone. Oh, and be sure to have decent speed when platforming as well. Do this and an entry pass shall be yours. Upon leaving town, we now have the ability to further explore the island via underwater sections of levels, and I have to say that this is how you make a water level. You don't slow a player's movement to a crawl and completely limit their moveset. What you do is just give them a different set of tools to use. For example, Yae can use a cannon for range attacks, but I mostly just use her dash ability. Now it's time for Ryugu Castle. There's some nice platforming, getting chased by a giant friggin' wheel, and some pretty gosh darn good underwater sequences. Before the boss fight, Bismaru leaves us with a gift. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, return to sender, return to sender! Okay, this one is a rematch from Mystical Ninja. Tai Samba, the charming mermaid. Super simple fight, just hit the mechanisms holding the rope, avoid the attacks, and watch the mermaid feel absolute agonizing pain. The only reason I died here was due to impatience because it feels like it goes on forever, man! After this, we face off against Tai Samba once again, but this time in a mecha battle, which is a much better fight. Not too difficult due to my reliance on the ultimate punch move. It kinda makes most fights trivial really, but I'm never one to not take a cheap shot. Hashtag heal life. So, where to now? We'd be pondering for ages, but thanks to the intervention of Suzaku, someone who claims to be our enemy, we now know to head towards Mafu Island! Why would an enemy want to help us? Never mind answering that now, we have Kokeshi Road to worry about, and hoo boy, I loathe this level with a burning passion! It starts off simple enough with a nice creepy atmosphere as Kokeshi dolls litter the area, but then come the smashing platforms. Once again, things seem fair enough until you get to the end of the level and you need absolute perfect timing or the only thing awaiting you is a deadly death. How I cleared this with only a couple of attempts is personally beyond me, as it normally takes me at least 5, but I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. It's pretty smooth sailing from here until we reach Spook Village, which, after saying that out loud, kinda makes me wish they added a Y at the end of that particular name. Regardless, this is the most vertical town in the game, as you'll be constantly going up and down these ramps to get around. 2 main side quests here. 1, a long trade sequence between the various iguana men, and numero 2, fireworks, baby! For this one, all you have to do is copy this guy Koji here and you'll have a pretty nice display. As usual, it starts off simple, but the last 2 were a bit much for my tiny brain to immediately remember, so I had to write them down on a piece of paper. Oh, and we get a tea house visit from Wise Man. He tells us the legend of TWK and basically lets us know that this dude is the worst of bad news, like worse than Bad News Bear type of bad news. This is also our final tea house cutscene of the game, so be sure to take it all in. Okay, Majin Castle time! This is where the difficulty really goes up a few notches, and not always for the best of reasons. So at first, as usual at this point, things seem to be challenging but fair, but then they force you to play as Ibisumaru. I haven't really discussed it yet, but each character does control pretty differently. For example, Goemon has a double jump, making him the ideal choice for almost any circumstance. Ibisumaru has a ground pound, which is nowhere nearly as reliable, but we need to use him to utilize his solid megaphone. I don't think I can properly convey the nervousness I was feeling here. At least the boss fight isn't too bad. It's against the Gatekeeper of Hell, Godotsuki. Hope I pronounced that right. Just have to avoid his attacks, and once you beat the ghost out of him, just beat the life out of the ghost. This fight is easily the best paced one out of all the bosses we've faced thus far. BS Castle, fun boss. Now for the mecha fight. Oh wait, we've got a cutscene. TWK has been revived. I guess you could say he's a pretty handsome devil, eh? Anyways, he leaves with Bismaru and has a giant robo to take us out, with the enemy being the god of wind and thunder, Ukulele Hawaiian. What? Alright, I think we can agree that the name Ukulele Hawaiian sounds problematic as fuck, right? Not just me this time? Like, this is bordering on Tequila Gundam levels of bullshit. So, the actual boss fight. I just ultimate punch the green out of him until he dies a death. Hooray, Robo-Death! But where to now? According to the wise man, the underworld. Yes, we're going to the literal underworld right about now. And the underworld is very green. Extremely green. Easily my favorite region of the game from a pure aesthetic standpoint. Getting to the town, however, can be a bit tricky, as the game once again has you use Ibisumaru to get there. Sai. The town in question, Tree Stump Village, and it can be quite confusing to get around due to the exits dropping you off at what feels like random locations, but you'll get the hang of it soon enough. The main to-do here is play hide and seek. The time limit may not seem like enough, but finding all the kids is far easier than it seems, thanks to the images at the top of the screen letting you know who hasn't been found yet. Grab that entry pass and it's off to Underworld Castle! I really dig the architecture of this place. The pillars really bring the area together like a nice rug. The most memorable part, though, is this huge honkin' hooligan swinging his club at you. Thankfully, you can hide in the water to avoid it. Now for the boss, Kabuki 64. This one feels the most like a prototypical boss fight, what with only being able to attack him at certain times, and the only way to actually damage him is to get him stunned and then attack him by using his own monster. Now for the mecha fight, Kabuki Final! Things go pretty well, although my computer clearly doesn't like it when he turns invincible, as the frame rate drops like a motherfucker during these segments. Aside from that, pretty smooth fight with us, once again getting that big old W. Now for our next destination. We're informed of it thanks to, once again, Suzaku, who reveals that she is helping us because TWK absolutely wrecked everything in the demon world when he was last active, and she gives us a container to seal him away for good measure. So, where are we off to? The motherfucking sky! This region just looks cool as hell, I can't lie. While the underworld has my favorite appearance, Floating Castle is a close second. These areas will most certainly test your might, but in a good way, as they're challenging but not too cheap. The city for Floating Castle is known as Floating World Town, and it is the largest town when you consider that it's all fit into one loading area. There are 2 side quests here. One has you buying merch from a dead salesman so he can pass on, but I lack the funds, so you'll have to stick around for a bit longer. Secondly, we have Yai taking a job giving out advice on the phone, and all you have to do is choose the right answer. This is made difficult due to the poor localization, but this is only 1998, and we wouldn't get good tools for localizing games on any regular basis until around the mid-2000s. My, how times have changed. Alright, off to the final castle of the game, Dream Castle. While this game's Japanese release date does come after Ocarina of Time by only a month, it feels like they somehow were able to still take notes from it because this is basically Ganon's castle. And by that, I mean we're going through harder versions of all the previous castles, which is fine if you're into that sort of thing. Me, I'm disappointed we didn't get a sky-themed castle. That would have been sick as fuck. The only part that really gets me tripped up is the final room, once again with a huge honkin' hooligan, who I will now refer to as one annoying mother effing fucker. Why? Here's why! Because he killed me over and over and over again. I was totally off my game here, and I can't explain why, other than I just wanted this section to be over. Eventually, I resorted to infinite lives, which, while good in the moment, also took my life counter down, significantly so. Swings and roundabouts, really. Oh, a cutscene. Neato! Oh no, TWK is holding Suzaku hostage in exchange for the container. Well, Goemon, being the ultimate paragon, makes the trade, and of course, TWK destroys it. And on top of that, he sicks his mecha after us. Our fight this time is against death itself, and my computer wasn't having any of this fight. Slow frame rates all around, baby. This guy kicked my ass pretty hard the first go round, but on the second attempt, he barely even scratched me. Not sure if that's adaptive difficulty or I was able to memorize his patterns. Regardless, with death dead, I guess nothing can stop our heroes, well, except for TWK it seems. For this fight, all we have to do is avoid the bombs and just keep attacking him. Easy enough, yeah? Well, if you thought that was it, get ready for round 2, aka Demon Mode! I have to admit, both of these phases were way easier than I remembered, and I last finished this game about 6 or 7 years ago. I guess with enough time passage, some things really do become trivial. Nevertheless, the demon is done, except not really, because apparently he is immortal and just needs to find a new body. Thankfully, Abisumaru has the ultimate plan to stop him, and it is not pleasant for anyone, especially TWK. Time for the denouement. Our heroes once again visit Wise Man at his home, and out of nowhere, Abisumaru's daughter appears. And she uses the Wise Man's second summoning machine because this old man will never learn his lesson, and now Bismaru's back. Except not really, because Bismaru's daughter causes the whole house to explode, and that's when our credits finally roll. But wait! There's more! In the post-game, on top of a few new side quests, there's also a brand new town to explore, but getting there is a bit of a tricky situation. First, head to Mokeki Forest, and then past the tea house platform, and through the underwater section after that, with the bus stop, and around the early morning, a demonic bus will pick you up and take you to your destination. That being Creep Village, home of the Tengu species who seem wholesome as heck. Also, from a pure design standpoint, this is my favorite area in the game. It makes going through all the nonsense to get here worth it, just to see everything once again. Not going to spoil too much here, as you should totally experience this town for yourself. And that was Goemon's Great Adventure, not a game I go back to as often as Mystical Ninja, but then again, Mystical Ninja is a lot easier to replay due to its short length. GGA, even now, takes me around 6 hours to finish, which is 2 longer than Mystical Ninja. They may not seem like much, but when you compound that with the difficulty spikes this game can have, I hope it isn't hard to see why I prefer one over the other. I will say this is technically the better put together game, as the platforming is pretty tight and responsive. Just wish that Final Dungeon had its own theme. Here's hoping that one day, Konami will do the right thing and finally port this and Mystical Ninja to modern consoles. Do it, you cowards! As for what's next, well, I gotta get things ready for the Halloween episode, of course. See you all then.